in case you're wondering, I'm using, remember this is a BMW built, or maybe early JLR build, M57, so it's a TD6 engine in this 2005 Range Rover. I'm using the C-Reader Elite, which is made by a company called Launch, and it's the Launch C-Reader Elite BMW. If you have a later model car, or you've got any of the later V8s or anything which have got the Jaguar engines in them, you'll need the C-Reader Elite Land Rover, not BMW. But these are only like £100 and invaluable. They allow you to set up suspension and everything else. I'll put a link, I'll put my affiliate link for this in the notes for this video. Okay, it didn't like that, so we're just going to put this aside. It wouldn't let me do the smooth running controller at the moment. We're going to treat that as a separate problem. Let's go for a little test drive. We're not expecting any problems, but at the same time we're completely expecting problems because we don't know anything about this car. We've only fixed the bits we know about so far, and this will be, other than the 120 odd mile drive where I picked this car up and brought it back here, this will be the first time this car's been driven again. And what I'm interested in finding out on this little test drive is, have we solved the problem with the engine primarily? Because we had a fault with the engine where it was randomly cutting out which I am pretty convinced was a problem with the low pressure side of the fuel system, and all the vacuum pipes which were messing. And we did all the vacuum pipes, and we changed the fuel filter. So let's see how it goes. I just realised I left all my tools back there, so if it breaks down on us, we're screwed. I have got my phone with me. I can always call the AA. They love me. But listen, this is driving nicely. It's responding to throttle input nicely. Gearbox is shifting smoothly. We've got the pad wear indicator on the dashboard, which I know about. I have had a look at the pads. We've got 4 brakes and 8 pads, so I think that's probably one of the wires for the pad wear indicator is damaged or worn through or unplugged. Now what I want to do is get this up to reasonable operating temperature. We haven't done the thermostat housing yet, so we do need to change the thermostat. That's the job for this afternoon. So we're not going to get the engine up to its full operating temperature, but what I want to do is get it up to somewhere close to its normal operating temperature and then hold the speed at about 50 miles an hour and see if we get the engine judder that we were getting before, because that's a right giveaway of us still having problems with the low pressure side of the fuel system. At the moment traffic isn't letting me do 50. I'm going to slow down and let the traffic ahead of me get further ahead. Ourselves of all the other jobs that they do on this car. So the engine doesn't get up to operating temperature. That's thermostat stuck open. I've got a new thermostat housing for it. We're going to change that this afternoon. I'm just waiting. Because I'm not at home, I don't have the tools here. Now, I've got the right tools for taking the viscous fan off, but not here. So I've had to order a new one from Amazon, and that will be coming this afternoon, and then we can take the viscous fan off and we can do the thermostat. So we're doing just over 50 miles an hour, 2000 RPM in top. No judder. Light acceleration going uphill, so the engine's under load. Just accelerated. Longer test drive is required before we head off on a 250 mile drive down to Wales, but I think I'm satisfied that all the immediate problems with the engine, its fuel system, it cutting off, all of those things you've solved. And if you want to see how we did that, you'll have to look for the other video in this series where we did the work on the initial work on the engine, which was mainly to replace all the vacuum pipes on the engine and do a leak-off test of the injectors. I'll remind you, we did the leak-off test and 5 out of 6 of the injectors gave us very consistent results. Five out of 6 of the injectors gave us very consistent results, and one of them, 7.5, was leaking off at about twice the rate of the others. That's a mechanical problem with the injector. I've got spare injectors, but I don't have the tools with me to change it. So I put it back together again as it was, with that knowledge, and I'll when we get the car to Wales, I can do that job. I'm also going to order a set of gaskets, new gaskets for the inlet Interestingly, the engine temperature, although it's still not getting up to a full operating temperature, I expect it to be there by now. The engine temperature is higher than it was before, and I think that's because the engine is now operating correctly. Its vacuum pipes are doing the right things, which they weren't before. But as I've slowed down, the temperature has dropped a little, and that tells me that the water is already flowing through the radiator, which it shouldn't be until the engine temperature reaches, I think it's 88 degrees C, and at that point it opens the thermostat and starts using the radiator to help moderate the temperature of the engine, and you'd expect to see the engine temperature running between 88 and 98 or 100. At the moment it's probably only in the 70s, if that. But no, this is working very nicely. So let's just, we've got a couple of minutes to drive back to the car park where I've been working on this. So let's just go through some of the other faults. The suspension on this car is completely shot. I'm having to constantly correct. So every bushing and bearing in the suspension is going to need a refresh. You can also feel it when you're braking. You get a judder on braking. That's all to do with worn out suspension components. The brake discs themselves are rusty through lack of use. So again, that will clean itself up just with a bit of driving. I'm going to fix this steering column. I think this seat heater's not working. We need to fix that. We need to do a complete set of fluids on the engine and gearbox and the transfer box and the diffs. I don't know when that was last done, and filters, not changed any of those at this stage. So basically the only thing I've done to this car to take it from something which was more or less undrivable to being able to do this with it today is I've changed all the vacuum pipes and the fuel filter. That's it. So my total investment so far is about 30 quid in fixing this car. I bought a new thermostat for it, which we're going to do. I think the thermostat is about 25 quid. It's going to be a couple of hours work. And that will then allow the engine to get up to a proper operating temperature.